Pizza time.
Hey guys, what's up? I'm doing something different. I'm going to take a look at the polls that I put on my community page and just kind of react to them and see what you guys have answered when it comes to this, because I feel like this is an interesting thing. It can lead to a lot of interesting topics, and a lot of these polls too I don't tend to make into videos, so I can kind of just give my little opinion for the video so you guys understand why I made the poll and what I would assume would be the best or worst of whatever I'm asking the question for, or just answering what I think the answer to the question would be. So, without further ado, let's just get it started.
Pizza time.
So my most recent poll, I asked, would Joker 2 revolve more around Harley Quinn as an origin story? And actually 63% of you said no. I will disagree on this one, because I feel like with the direction the first Joker movie was, where we got the Joker's descent into becoming the Joker fully, I feel like with Joker 2, sure, they're going to build his story a lot more, but with Harleen Quinzel being involved, I just feel like that we are definitely going to see her descent into madness more than, you know, the Joker's other story or whatever continuation of the story that they're trying to do. I don't think the movie's going to necessarily revolve around her, but it's going to be one of those ones where this is the origin story that this movie sets up, and wherever it decides to go from there, I don't know, but I do believe that we will be getting more of an origin story towards Harley Quinn, since you look at the 3 Margot Robbie movies and we never really get one, aside from the first Suicide Squad, but it's a lot of flashbacks and it doesn't go through it a whole lot. This will be the first time I think we really get an in-depth look at the transformation of the character overall.
Pizza time.
So the next question I asked is, which third movie in a trilogy is the best one? Now, it's strictly trilogies. I'm not talking about just the third movie of any franchise in general, because there are more franchises that have more than 3 movies. I'm talking about movies or franchises that had 3 movies and that was it, and the last movie was the absolute best. And 39% of you actually said Spider-Man No Way Home, and 32% of you said Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, while Logan and Civil War had 11, and then other, which was somebody said The Dark Knight Rises, and I don't really agree with that one. I think that one is the worst in the Christopher Nolan trilogy. But when it comes to Spider-Man No Way Home and Revenge of the Sith, it's really a toss-up for me, because Spider-Man No Way Home, even though it's a good movie, I feel like people enjoyed it a lot because of the nostalgia factor, having the other 2 Spider-Men come in and the old villains of theirs coming into this story, seeing those actors return. It definitely was really fun, but when we're talking about like a satisfying ending to a story, or not really ending, but Revenge of the Sith finally did what it was set out to do, and that was show us the Anakin Skywalker turning to the dark side and the Empire falling and getting us to where the original trilogy had started from. I mean, the first 2 prequels, which were The Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, weren't really received all that well, but Revenge of the Sith really came out with that gut punch and did a good job, and I remember as a kid just absolutely loving it. That fight scene between Obi-Wan and Anakin on Mustafar and the lava planet, it was everything we probably could have imagined, and it finally gave the fans what they wanted in terms of completing the story. So for me, it's close, but I would say Revenge of the Sith was really the first third movie in a trilogy where I just absolutely adored it, because it just felt complete at that point. Like, once that movie came out, the first 6 movies were just complete. That story overall, we were like, okay, now we have the full story, and it was satisfying.
Pizza time.
Now we're getting into some ones I asked about Lady Gaga, because, well, there was a couple that I had in mind. And the first one is, do you think it's unfair that Lady Gaga is making less than half of what Joaquin Phoenix is making for the Joker sequel, even though they're both starring in lead roles? 88% of you said yes, and I do definitely agree. I feel like, you know, if they're both starring in the movie, no matter the gender here, I feel like if they're the stars, the main focal points of the movie, then why should one make more than the other? But then it was kind of pointed out to me that, yeah, Joaquin's making 20, and Lady Gaga's making 10, but it seems like she's also going to be doing some songs for this movie, maybe even potentially making an album of songs for the movie in general, because, you know, you look at A Star is Born, that soundtrack was mainly her and Bradley Cooper, and even for this recent Top Gun movie, even though she wasn't in it, she did a song for it. So Lady Gaga, with her talent of being an actress and also doing music, she's kind of taking the Will Smith route. She's not necessarily making songs for every movie she's in, but when she gets that opportunity, she's definitely going to take it. And if that's the case, where, oh, she can still make more money because she's going to be making songs for this movie, then I can kind of see, like, maybe it'll balance itself out. But I don't know, I just still feel like that, you know, you still, if you were to pay her the $20 million like you're paying Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix, who got a big pay grade because the first movie wasn't that necessarily high of a budget, but now it's $150 million. That's $60 million you're spending on the director and the 2 stars, and you still have $90 million to do whatever with your complicated musical sequences, and even paying Zazie Beetz, who's apparently supposed to return for the sequel as well, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I made a video about it, and I still think that it's unfair, but we'll see if the whole her making music for the movie will even things out, if that's even the case. She might not even make songs for the movie, but I wouldn't be surprised if she did.
Pizza time.
Then I asked, what's your favorite Lady Gaga single that isn't Poker Face? And 63% of you, out of the choice between Paparazzi, Bad Romance, Alejandro, Million Reasons, and Judas, said Bad Romance. And you know, I can't argue with that one. Even though Paparazzi is my overall favorite Lady Gaga song, Bad Romance is one of those late 2000s pop songs that I think just aged super well. Like, I think it was very ahead of its time. It was very popular when it came out, but it's still one of those songs that you can pop in today in 2022 and just jam to and feel like it was made at this time. I mean, she was already big, but that was like her big, like, oh yeah, she can make some great memorable songs. So yeah, I'm glad that Bad Romance was the choice, but Paparazzi and Judas and even Alejandro, I think, deserve more love than this poll gave it.
Pizza time.
Then the last of the Lady Gaga stuff, I said, to celebrate Lady Gaga being named the new Harley Quinn, I decided to go back and listen to all of her albums and do a top 10 Lady Gaga song video coming soon. That's actually out now. And I said, this leads me to ask, what is your favorite Lady Gaga album? Fame/The Fame Monster, Born This Way, Art Pop, Joanne, or Chromatica? And of course, 60% of you said the Fame/The Fame Monster. Now, I may have made it a little unfair because I put basically the regular edition and the deluxe edition reissue of the album together, but to me, they always seem like one album just all in one, so there's really telling no difference. And of course, Born This Way was at 30%, Joanne got the other 10%, so Art Pop and Chromatica people don't seem to necessarily like, and yeah, those are my 2 least favorite Gaga albums as well. But yeah, I think between The Fame and Born This Way, you can definitely make a case for both. Mine is the Fame/Fame Monster because, well, that's the one that I enjoy the most, and just remember seeing the music videos and the songs for it back in the day when I was younger. It was just very entertaining, where I feel like Born This Way, the change became a little bit too noticeable for me, even though I like songs off of that and like the album. I just kind of started to realize that, oh, things are going to be changing and I'm not going to like it as much. And lo and behold, then Art Pop came out and it was just kind of like, oh, well, this is a big step down. But yeah, no, The Fame will always be probably one of the best debut albums, pop albums in the 2000s, because really I haven't enjoyed a pop album that much since this one came out.
Pizza time.
Then this one, for the Thor Love and Thunder video I just put out not that long ago, I asked, is Thor Love and Thunder as bad as Batman and Robin? And 71% of you said no. And again, I agree. I mentioned it in that video. I feel like with the way Marvel works, they work fast and they still do a good job on their movies, and there's definitely parts in the movies where you can see, oh, this CGI looks off, this, that, and the other. Maybe they're trying to make their characters too comedic. There's some that shouldn't be. I get it. I understand that. But we're talking about Thor Love and Thunder, a high-budget project, going up against Batman and Robin, which was a high-budget project back in the day. But I mean, come on. You could tell Batman and Robin was just silly from the get-go. But with Thor Love and Thunder, sure, it's silly, but I don't even think it's even that close to comparing to Batman and Robin, because it's not even a terrible movie. Like, Batman and Robin is downright terrible. Thor Love and Thunder is just okay. That's why I said if there's any movie I would compare Batman and Robin to for this generation, it would be Morbius, because it's up there. People hated it. It fucking sucks. And it has basically almost the same rating as Batman and Robin does, and most people will agree that it sucks, but with Thor Love and Thunder, you're gonna get a 50-50 reaction, and that's how it was for me. Like, it wasn't a terrible movie, but when it comes to the MCU movies, it wasn't necessarily their best output. But with the Thor movies, other than Ragnarok, they've been less than stellar anyway, so it wasn't too much of a surprise.
Pizza time.
Then this poll is going to be interesting, because I think something is coming soon in September, only because someone said Hayley Williams is doing 20 episodes of her podcast, and people believe that, I think it was like September 5th, which is the episode 20, the 20th and final episode of her podcast, that she will debut the new Paramore song there, the new single that's coming out for the upcoming album, which is complete, by the way. It's completely done, so something has to give soon, but you know how Hayley Williams is with wanting to release her songs or albums in the most unique way possible, and with Paramore, it's been a while since we've heard them, so I feel like she's trying to find a way to make the comeback feel epic and not too forced, and I believe that she is going to drop that day, so we could be here with something new from Paramore very soon. But I asked this right after it was announced that the album was done, and Hayley Williams kind of hinted as to what the new album would sound like. I asked, what do you think Paramore will do? And 73% of you said they will release a single in late summer, early fall, over surprise dropping the entire album with no promotion. And I do agree. Even though Hayley Williams surprise dropped her second studio album, it wasn't planned, that album, originally. She was supposed to be touring for her first studio album at that point in time, one that she teased heavily and all this kind of stuff, but when COVID happened, she had to cancel that tour, and not really ready to go back and doing Paramore quite yet, she made her own little, as she called it, Taylor Swift-esque album with the whole Evermore thing, and created Flowers for Vases, which, you know, was more of a stripped-down version of what she was doing, her solo stuff. But now that Paramore's back and the return is anticipated, I don't see them just dropping something without telling people. There's going to be some teasing, and there's going to be some way that they release the single one way or another, and I think when they do that, they will give us a release date to the album. That way it's not a surprise when that drops either, because keep in mind, it's been 4 years since they've done any shows, and that's going to happen in October, and I feel like they're going to have, or going to want new material to play for that, maybe whether it's a new song or two. And it's been 5 years since the newest album, and I just think that they want to keep the hype up, but they don't want to keep us guessing. When they're ready to release this new song, they're going to tease, and the song will come out when it does. But like I said, I think we're really like this close at this point. I think September and around the fall is when we're going to get singles, and probably sometime in December, January, during the winter, we are going to get the long-awaited 6th studio album from them. But for now, we'll just have to wait and see.
Pizza time.
Then, going back to that Christopher Nolan trilogy, I said, which one is your favorite movie from the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy? 71% of you said The Dark Knight. No surprise there. You know my answer. It's the same one that pretty much 71% of you picked. However, I don't agree with the 18% picking The Dark Knight Rises over the 12% picking Batman Begins. Even though Batman Begins is slow, it's still a really entertaining movie. With The Dark Knight Rises, I don't know, it's just boring to me. I've pointed this out before, and I even pointed it out when I did that video on this trilogy in general, how it was almost perfect, but the third movie just kind of set everything back from what Christopher Nolan wanted to do, and I just feel like The Dark Knight Rises, it wasn't a triumphant finish. It was kind of like a finish where some things are good about it, but for the most part, you're not satisfied with how it ended. You wanted something better. So, yeah, for me, it's The Dark Knight. For a lot of people, it's The Dark Knight, but I still think Batman Begins doesn't get enough credit for being a movie that actually goes deep into Bruce Wayne becoming Batman and using the whole League of Shadows. To this day, Christopher Nolan's still the only one that has done that story, and he did it very well.
Pizza time.
This one's interesting. I said, which Anya Taylor-Joy movie is better? There is a right answer, and 60% of you guessed correctly. It's The Last Night in Soho over The Northman. I don't know, The Northman to me, I guess I'm just not a big fan of those movies, but it was so star-studded, I wanted to see how it turned out, and I don't know, it was just kind of, not really that entertaining. But The Last Night in Soho, I like myself a good thriller. I mean, I'm a big Jordan Peele fan, so that should say a lot, but with The Last Night in Soho, I was just so impressed with the turns that it took and that twist at the end. It was just nice, and I feel like Anya Taylor-Joy's portrayal as a younger Penny in this movie was just so... It was fantastic, and probably just one of my favorite movies from last year that wasn't comic book related. It was entertaining all the way through, whereas The Northman started slow, picked up some hope, but then loses you again towards the middle.
Pizza time.
Then we have Who is the Best Catwoman? 41% of you said Michelle Pfeiffer, and yeah, I mean, I don't really think it's even close from the other people that have played it. I mean, of course, you had the 3 in the 60s show that played the character. It was Julie Newmar, Eartha Kitt, who was one of my options on here, and for the life of me, I can't remember the third actress that played Catwoman on the show, but they all did their job for being, you know, campy, and Eartha Kitt actually didn't even really appear on it that much. 21% of you then said Anne Hathaway, which, I mean, yeah, going back and watching The Dark Knight Rises, I appreciate her portrayal more because she's not just that cliche, oh, cat, like she's actually just like a cat burglar kind of, you know, doing her own thing. And only 7% of you said the most recent one, Zoe Kravitz. And look, I get it, it might be a tad bit different, but this is kind of the Selena Kyle we got in the Long Halloween and Year One stories, and that's what Matt Reeves is going off of, so I think she did a nice job. I think she did better than Halle Berry. You gave 14% to Halle Berry, and let's be honest with ourselves, it's not Halle Berry's fault, but she was terrible in that movie. Give her a better script, she's perfect. Heck, I had no problem with the casting back in the day, but like, yeah, no, she wasn't great in that Catwoman movie at all, but yet again, who was?
Pizza time.
This isn't necessarily a poll, but I wanted to add this one here because I saw this on Facebook and I thought it was very interesting. It was really hard for me to pick between these 6 comic book movies here. It says if you had to pick just one of those 6 for the rest of your life, which would you choose? It really sucks because all these movies on here I really like. I think my least favorite one on these 6 would be Captain America the Winter Soldier. I like the movie, but when you compare it to these other ones, it's just, it definitely loses out. And then you got the Batman, you got Wonder Woman, you got Joker, Avengers Infinity War, and The Dark Knight. Basically, you got 3 Batman movies, and it's like, do you want all 3 to have never happened? Do you want one to have happened and the other 2 to never happen? I guess I'd have to say The Dark Knight, though, just because it's the perfect one. Although I loved the Batman and loved the Joker, and even these other movies I thoroughly enjoyed, I think that The Dark Knight just, again, still holds up to this day and is still seen as a classic just because of the way it was able to do things, and that mystery of Joker and the way Heath Ledger portrayed it was just so fantastic. Because with Avengers Infinity War, let's be honest here, it's okay to have a movie where the superhero or superheroes lose, but I don't want to have to live with that being the only one we get, because it's like, oh, they lost, so that's like pretty much the end of the story. We're not going to get the end game, which is where they actually come back and become victorious, so that one would be a little weird. And Wonder Woman, yeah, I mean, it's fine, but for the rest of my life, I don't know. And with the Joker movie, it was supposed to be a one-off, now getting its own sequel. I think that's one I can live without just because it's so different from all the other Batman stories that I feel like if it wasn't the Joker, it could be a really good movie about just some guy who goes insane. Like, somebody can make that movie and just not title it Joker. So, you know, I feel like that's also one we can live without, but it would also mean that we would have never gotten Joaquin Phoenix's portrayal of the character, his fantastic just take on it. So again, it was very hard for me, but I guess it's The Dark Knight just because not only is it my favorite comic book movie of all time, but it's my favorite movie of all time, just with the way it was able to do things and stay relevant almost 15 years after the fact.
Pizza time.
Here's one I meant to make a video on, but I never made a video on just because, well, it's been a long time since I've seen these movies, and I didn't really feel like buying them or searching for them. I remember them being on HBO Max, but I don't think they are anymore, and I don't know what other streaming service would have them. But we're going to talk about the Ghost Rider movies, and I basically asked, what do y'all think about the Ghost Rider movies, the two with Nicolas Cage? Those are the only two. 63% of you said the first one's good, and then you kind of had, a mixture of, 5% of you said the second one's good, which, what's wrong with you? 16% of you said they're both good, which again, what's wrong with you? And 16% of you said they're okay, and none of you said they both suck. I mean, they kind of do both suck, but if I had to guess, I would say that the first one is good, but it's still not great. I was entertained by it, and then that second movie, I remember they kind of said it was a sequel reboot, because if you watch the second movie, it's definitely a little darker, teetering more on the edge of PG-13 than what the first movie had. And I do think Ghost Rider looks better visually in the second movie. They were able to, make him look better, more charred and burnt and all this kind of stuff. That movie was just so all over the place, and the story was terrible. Nicolas Cage, his acting in the first movie was fine, but in that second movie, it just went to territories where it just should never have gone. So they're weird movies for me, but the first one's fine, but a lot of the time I tend to forget they exist, so I don't know really how good that means the first one is either.
Pizza time.
Then for who is the best live action Batman, this one actually surprised me, because I gave you the options of Ben Affleck, Robert Pattinson, Michael Keaton, Christian Bale, and Adam West. No Val Kilmer, no George Clooney, because even though people know they played Batman in a movie, they weren't necessarily there long enough or had like an integral part where, we can really say how they did. Plus, they're arguably in the two worst Batman movies, so most people wouldn't pick them. And surprisingly, 46% of you said Robert Pattinson over Christian Bale's 42. And you know what? I'm not the biggest fan of Christian Bale's Batman. I mean, he's fine, he's good, but again, I think I said the problem with his movies is he always tend to get outdone by the villains or another supporting character like Gary Oldman as Gordon or Michael Caine as Alfred. It just seemed like there was somebody doing something better than him. But with Robert Pattinson's Batman, it's more he fits in well with the characters that he's, teaming up with, and he also just he plays a distraught Batman so well. Like, this Batman wants to be Batman. Like, he doesn't want to do the Bruce Wayne shit. He is just strictly out there, and he's still learning a little bit, so I thought that was cool. If I had to put them in order, I'd say Pattinson is the best, then Keaton, then Affleck, then Bale, and then West. And that's no offense to Adam West. It's just, I like campy Batman every once in a while, but, I didn't grow up on the 66 show. I didn't really watch reruns. I think I watched the movie just recently, the 66 movie, but that's really all I have to go off of. I don't think I've ever seen a single episode of the 66 show, but for what it was, he did his job, so it's not me saying he was terrible at what he was asked to do. I'm just saying he wasn't a Batman that I grew up with, even with reruns on. It was just more kind of like, oh yeah, I heard about it, kind of seen what he's done, but, I don't really find it, to be my cup of tea, so I can't really fully judge. I can't really say he sucks, because he really doesn't, but that's just what I think, at least. And a lot of you say that Robert Pattinson's the best, and I guess that it's swayed because his is the most recent movie, but Ben Affleck's coming back, and who knows, with the way friggin' Warner Brothers is doing stuff now, they might just can the Reeves universe altogether and we just get that one-off movie with Robert Pattinson, but I still think he overexceeded a lot of people's expectations, going from the Twilight guy to a pretty serious actor to now playing Batman. It was like the same with Michael Keaton. People said, oh, he's a comedy actor, why is he doing this? And throughout his two movies, people were like, actually, this was really good.
Pizza time.
So yeah, that was it for looking at my polls in the community page and reacting to your answers to the options that I gave you. It's very interesting seeing what you guys choose sometimes, because there's definitely some options I put down where I'm like, nobody's going to choose this, and yet some people choose it, or maybe the majority of people choose it, and it really surprises me. And I kind of, like giving my answer to those polls, because I feel like I don't answer them myself that often. You can kind of get a hint at how I do answer them sometimes, but for the most part, I wanted to be able to answer and show you and tell you what I think I would choose in those polls, or what I know I would choose when it comes to these polls, and I feel like it's just a lot of fun. Plus, too, I feel like this is better than reading comments because sometimes the comments can get real nasty and obnoxious, whereas this, sometimes it's just a simple, hey, do you think this, yes or no, or I give you some options and you just click it and you don't have to give an explanation, and it's just kind of like, huh, even though I'm wondering about your explanation, I'm like, okay, I get it, and that's just, I think, better for me because it helps me get to know you more without anybody really going, oh, it's this, and if you think otherwise, you're dumb and stupid and should kill yourself, you know, that kind of stuff. So, yeah, that's it for me. Hope you guys enjoyed. Please remember to like and subscribe if you're on Facebook. Share. Wait, why did I just do my old... I don't even do that anymore. Fuck that outro. Stay safe out there. Wear your mask. Get vaccinated. And until then, I will catch you all in the next one.
You know, I'm something of a scientist myself.
Oh, good for you!